Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 32, Text 38. Jivasya samsritir bhavir avidya karma nirmita yasvanga pravisannatma naveda gatim atmana. Jivasya samsritir bhavir avidya karma nirmita yasvanga pravisannatma naveda gatim atmanaha. Jivasya samsritir bhavir avidya karma nirmita yasvanga pravisannatma naveda gatim atmanaha. Vaishnavis. Jivasya, of the living entity. Sangsriti, courses of material existence. Bhavi, many. Avidya, in ignorance. Karma, by work. Nirmita, produced. Yasu, into which. Anga, my dear mother. Pravishan, entering. Atma, the living entity. Na, not. Veda, understands. Gatim, the movement. Atmana, of himself. Translation: there are varieties of material existence for the living entity according to the work he performs in ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity. My dear mother, if anyone enters into that forgetfulness, he is unable to understand where his movements will end. Purport: once one enters into the continuation of material existence, it is very difficult to get out. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes himself or sends his bona fide representative, and he leaves behind scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, so that the living entities hovering in the darkness of nescience may take advantage of the instructions, the saintly persons, and the spiritual masters, and thus be freed. Unless the living entity receives the mercy of the saintly persons, the spiritual master, or Krishna, it is not possible for him to get out of the darkness of material existence by his own endeavor. It is not possible. Translation again. There are varieties of material existence for the living entity according to the work he performs in ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity. My dear mother, if anyone enters into that forgetfulness, he is unable to understand where his movements will end. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The forgetfulness of the Jiva is a very deep topic. How it is that we're so entombed in material existence that we don't care to think, where did I come from and where am I going? We're oblivious to these things. The other day we were speaking about how people think it's so liberating, so enthralling, so exciting to define yourself and validate yourself. There's this false conception that you are your own definer. And in this way, people are being crushed under the pressure under the load of trying to so-called be themselves. And while trying to be themselves, they just imitate everyone else. No one knows how to be authentic. No one cares to be authentic. How does such forgetfulness blanket the conditioned soul? And we don't even feel it. We don't feel how we're changing from one body to another. We don't remember our previous lifetime. And in material consciousness, we don't really care about our future lifetime. Meanwhile, the laws of nature are acting upon us. Just consider, right now, in Los Angeles, you're moving about 760 miles per hour. The earth is spinning at that speed. You don't feel it. You think everything is stationary. Just like when you're in an airplane. You don't feel that the jet is moving that fast. Unless there's turbulence or it's time for takeoff or landing. But when the speed is steady of the airplane, you don't feel anything. Similarly, the earth is spinning at the equator about 1,000 miles per hour, and at Los Angeles, because the earth is smaller as you move away from the equator, the earth is spinning at about 760 miles per hour. You don't feel it. Yet we think we're so perceptive with our senses. So no wonder that we can't feel the process of material existence in terms of changing bodies. Lord Kapila Deva is winding up his instruction. He's speaking to Anga, his dear mother, and he's explaining these things. In this chapter, especially Lord Kapila Deva is pointing out those who think that bhakti is subordinate to pious activities are greatly mistaken. In the previous chapter, Lord Kapila Deva he discussed those who just plunge deep into bad karma. But in this chapter, he deals with those who think that good karma is the main thing and bhakti is secondary to good karma. And now he's explaining that Whether it's good karma or bad karma, you're going to rotate in material existence. Lord Chaitanya gives a very striking example in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says it's like a punishment in medieval times when a criminal or someone accused of a crime would be put in a chair hanging over the river and then dunked in the river until they were about to drown and then pulled out, only to have it happen again and again. You remember this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita? So when the person's dunked under the ocean, under the river water, it's a hellish experience. And then right before you're dead, you're yanked up out of the water. Relief. And then down you go again. So Lord Chaitanya says this is like the process of material existence. Happiness and distress, higher planets, lower planets. When you're miserable, it's hellish, and then you get some little scraps of material pleasure and you think, just like when the chair lifts the person out of the water, relief, now I can enjoy. That's the medieval technique. They do have a modern equivalent. It used to be very controversial, but probably now it's accepted as ordinary. It's called waterboarding. Anyone remember what waterboarding is? Yes. You're put on a plank. This is what the CIA was doing. Put someone on a plank of wood and put a cloth over the nose and mouth, soak that cloth with water, and then tilt the person back on the plank. You get the same effect as if you're drowning. And then you're pulled up. Relief. So this is our process of material distress and so-called material enjoyment, which all leads to another body. But who cares about that? This is our disease. We just want something now, for the moment. Just give me a little fulfillment and a little hope for future happiness and gratification. I'll be all right. I don't expect everything to be perfect. I know there'll be bad times and problems. Just give me a little moment of sensual fulfillment, appreciation, fame, respect, and that's all I need to get by. So Lord Kapil Dev is pointing out there are varieties of material existence for the living entity according to the work he performs. And how does he perform that work? In ignorance or forgetfulness. So what about these varieties of material existence? You get to sample them all in your sojourn through material life. I remember going on a walk here in Los Angeles with Srila Prabhupada in 1975, and he explained that it's kind of shorthand or abbreviation when the Shastra explains that you lose your human form of life, you go down into the dog or cat species, and then you pop back up to the human form of life. He said that's abbreviation. What really happens is that you have to be every dog, every type of cat, and then you come up. So losing your human form of life is a disaster, but we don't feel that way because we're blinded by ignorance and forgetfulness. As Queen Kunti Devi explains in the first canto, avidya, kama, karma be. There are two forces that are shackling us, avidya, ignorance, and kama, material desire. Blinded by those two, we have lost track of where we come from, and we don't care where we're going. So this is the darkness of ignorance that encases conditioned souls. And Lord Kapil Dev is explaining, my dear mother, if anyone enters into that forgetfulness, he is unable to understand where his movements will end. Just like you don't feel the earth spinning at 760 miles per hour. because the speed is constant. Earlier in third canto, Lord Kapila Dev explains that just like a mass of clouds in the sky is oblivious, unaware of the power of the wind, but that power of the wind may at any moment blow the clouds out of the sky. But the clouds, so to speak, they don't notice. Very beautiful example from Lord Kapila Dev. How we reconcile ourselves, how do we adjust ourselves to this reality of repeated birth and death? Bhakti is very destination conscious. We're taught to always think, where are you going? What will your future be? Many people will criticize, you're so hung up on the future, you're not enjoying the moment, the moment of the present. But in the bhakti process, you are connecting with Krishna now, and you are connecting to Krishna in the future, regardless of your past. So the bhakti yogis are the best at enjoying the moment because they're using their spiritual senses. They're reviving their spiritual sense perception. There are two types of sense activity. There is the material sense activity and the spiritual sense activity. Sometimes we have this fear that I take to spiritual life, what will happen to my senses? What will feed my senses? Because we're equating bhakti yoga with religion. Religion means primarily belief. What do you believe? I believe this. What do you believe? I believe that. But bhakti yoga is about spiritual sensory activity, because the material senses are a covering over the spiritual senses. So as your spiritual life progresses, your spiritual senses come more and more to the fore. And therefore you hear the Hare Krishna mantra better and sweeter. The prasad tastes better also. Everyone likes that. All your spiritual senses become more prominent. Whereas in material life, your spiritual senses are totally asleep. And your material senses are dominating you. So Lord Kapila Dev is explaining about the depths of forgetfulness and how to get out of those depths. Sometimes in your wandering throughout the material existence in different bodies, on different planets, sometimes you connect with an opportunity to render service to Krishna. Contact points with devotional service are strewn throughout the universe. Just like during Mahaprabhu's presence, residents from other planets would come to South India disguised as human beings to associate with him. And in that way, the Sankirtan movement spread all over the universe. Devatas like Shiva and Parvati would come and meet him in solitude. So in this way, the Sankirtan movement is a universal cosmic event. This is Krishna's plan, that throughout the material universes, there are opportunities for conditioned souls to come in contact with devotees. Yes, material existence in a material universe is miserable. We don't think it's that miserable because we have some hope that I'll have a few good times. Just give me a few good times, a few magic moments. That's all I'm asking. We're so miserly. That's why we're called kripanas. Just give me a few indulgences, and that'll keep me steady. That'll keep me fixed in my illusory quest for material happiness. And then I'll die satisfied that I had a few good moments. I'll die in peace. Forget it. It doesn't work like that. You'll die in terror. So the process of material existence is very deadly. But at the same time, Krishna has arranged that there are contact points with devotees throughout all the universes, one way or another. By accident, you come across a devotee. By the good fortune from a previous lifetime. Think about Akrura on his way to Vrindavan to bring Krishna and Balaram to Mathura. Externally, what was Akrura's reason? He was carrying out the order of Kamsa to bring Krishna and Balaram to Mathura to be killed. But Akrura is taking this as an opportunity to go to Vrindavan and to be with Krishna and Balaram. He had that faith that even though externally I'm on such an abominable mission, Krishna in my heart will know where I'm really at. So as he's riding on his chariot to Vrindavan, and what kind of chariot was it? Who remembers? It was a flash Mercedes chariot. Why was that? But what was Kamsa's motivation in presenting this brand new Bentley chariot for Akrura to take to Vrindavan and bring back Krishna and Balaram? Kamsa's mentality, typical material mentality, was Vaishnavas are simple-minded. They're sentimentalists. I'll blow Akrura's mind by presenting to him a brand new luxurious chariot. He'll really be swayed and he'll want to carry out my word, carry out my mission, because the chariot is so luxurious and no one has ever ridden on it before. It's brand new. Here it is, Akrura. Isn't your mind blown? And what is Akrura thinking? He's thinking, I'm so glad you're giving me a brand new chariot to go fetch Krishna and Balaram, because I wouldn't want them to ride on any chariot that you've already ridden on, you demon. So Akrura is on his way to Vrindavan. And he's thinking, how do I get this opportunity? How can I, so fallen, deserve such an opportunity to see Krishna and Balaram? It shouldn't happen. Just like a low-class person shouldn't have an opportunity to recite the Vedas. Similarly, what have I done? I haven't done anything to deserve such an opportunity to go to Vrindavan and bring back Krishna and Balaram. But then, see, first, you want to get into the technicalities. Akrura is in Dasaras. His relationship with Krishna is servitude. But in that ocean of servitude, there can be other currents temporarily flowing. Those are called sanchari bhavas. So Akrura's servitude is being overwhelmed temporarily by the bhava, the sanchari bhava of humility. Not that he wasn't humble before, but the humility becomes especially pronounced. This is all explained by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion, as well as Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Akrura, in his humility, is feeling so unworthy. Who am I to get this opportunity? But then he thinks, sometimes a piece of grass floating on the river of time is carried to the shore. Similarly, sometimes in the course of material existence, a conditioned soul gets an opportunity to serve Krishna. And that's what we have. We're like pieces of grass floating on the river of time. Generally, we're carried from one body to another, one material destination to another. But sometimes we encounter a devotee. So this is what Akrura is saying about himself. I've got an opportunity. Just like sometimes a piece of grass carried on the waves is brought to the shore, similarly, I've been brought to the shore of Krishna's mercy. I can see Krishna and Balaram. So then he, in his mind, visualizes what's going to happen when he arrives in Vrindavan, how Krishna is going to greet him, how Balarama is going to greet him. He's anticipating. You see, anticipation is there in spiritual life as well as material life. In both spiritual and material life, anticipation plays such a great role. In material life, if you want to know fancy sociological terminology, in material life, this syndrome is called the arrival fallacy. That when I always like to explain this in case you've heard it before, because it's the essence of material existence, but it's also the essence of spiritual existence. The arrival fallacy on the spiritual platform is not a fallacy, but on the material plane, it's a complete hoax. So what is the arrival fallacy on the material plane? When I get from point A and I arrive at point B, oh, I can just see now how I'm going to feel. I'm anticipating. It's going to be glorious. I'll be satisfied. I'll be gratified. I will have enjoyed. So you've got it all worked out in your mind. This is going to be good. This is going to be fantastic. This will please me. I will be the enjoyer. I will be the controller. Why is it a fallacy? Why is it called the arrival fallacy? Because when you get to point B, it's no big deal. Or if you think you've had a big deal, it's gone instantly. It's gone. Here, now, and then immediately gone. And so you're left frustrated. That's why Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that from lust comes anger. Some of the acharyas insert frustration in between lust and anger, but frustration is a type of anger. So you're frustrated. I worked so hard and that pleasure has gone so quickly, or I didn't get enough of it. And then you get angry. And that means you've got to blame someone. So material life means, who are you going to blame? You didn't get that promise of satisfaction. It disappeared so quickly. So this is the arrival fallacy. When I get from point A to point B, I'm going to feel so good. I'm going to feel successful. I'll have self-worth. I'll have self-respect. I'll have love for myself. That's a big thing these days. Love yourself. Love your faults. Forgive yourself. I'll be doing all those things when I get to point B. I can just see it now in my mind's eye. That's the arrival fallacy. Even materialists, they know it's a fallacy, but they can't resist because you don't have anything better. So even the social scientists who study this and have named this phenomenon, they admit we fall victim ourselves to it again and yet again. Because you have no higher taste. You have no knowledge and experience of how to utilize your spiritual senses. So you're trapped. But what about anticipation on the spiritual platform? It's very important. So important in Krishna's pastimes. There's terminology for that. But that terminology is for real. Purvarag. Before Krishna and his beloveds meet, in anticipation, they generate a state of consciousness that is more intense than when they meet. How does this happen? By hearing. They hear about each other. By getting glimpses of the beloved from a distance. Or by dreams. This all contributes to Purvarag in the meeting of Krishna and his beloveds. So anticipation is so important in Goloka Vrindavan, in Krishna Lila. It's more sought after than the actual meeting itself. But in material life, sorry. Your anticipation simply leads to frustration and anger. And we don't notice how we are changing from one body to another, one location to another, in terms of our lifetime destinations. We don't notice all that because we're encased in ignorance. But the residents of Vrindavan, they think that they are ordinary persons in the material world. They don't think we're liberated, we have spiritual bodies, we're with Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead. They don't think like that. That's what makes the pastimes sweeter. Krishna's pastimes are human-like. They're not human, but they're human-like. Naralila, human-like pastimes. And his associates, as you know, they never think that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like the cowherd boys, when they see Krishna do something wonderful, like swallow a forest fire, they begin to speculate a bit. That they don't think Krishna is God. Even the cowherd people in general, when they see some danger coming, they're thinking of how to protect Krishna, how to protect their service to Krishna. They're not being selfish. We were explaining this in Laguna Beach on Sunday. When the cowherd people cry out, Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaga, O supremely opulent Krishna, source of all opulence. Hey Rama, Mita, Vikrama, Balaram, you do inconceivable feats. We have this danger coming. The forest fire. And Nanda Maharaj appeals to Krishna. Krishna, Vrindavan is your hometown. If Vrindavan's destroyed, how are we going to serve your lotus feet? So the cowherd people are not thinking of saving their own skin. They're thinking, if we die, we'll be separated from Krishna. That's what we're afraid of, separation from Krishna. What will happen to our service if we die? See, they're not thinking they're liberated souls. This is what makes the pastime so sweet. For Krishna's pleasure. So they're appealing to Krishna. We can't tolerate being separated from you. If the forest fire burns us all, where is the service to your lotus feet? What will we be doing in that situation? Oh, Krishna, save me, save me. I haven't finished my material plans yet. I haven't finished my material attachments yet. Save me, save me. But they're thinking, save our service. Another example, when Uddhava was finishing his visit to Vrindavan, he's about to leave, he's on his chariot at the gateway to Vrindavan, and the residents of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj, they are bringing gifts for Uddhava, as well as gifts for Uddhava to bring back to Mathura, to give to Krishna, to give to Vasudeva, to give to King Ugrasena. What kind of gifts were they? The cowherd boys presented gifts from the forest. They knew Krishna would love this. Roots and berries and flowers. This is Vrindavan Dham. Such a simple gift. But they knew Krishna, he's Gopal. He loves the cows. He loves the forest of Vrindavan. We'll give him berries and roots and flowers from the forest. And what about Mother Yashoda? She sends gifts of milk products, especially milk sweets with her own stamp on them. And Nanda Maharaj includes some milk product gifts for King Ugrasena and for Vasudeva. So they're presenting all these gifts to Uddhava. Gifts for Uddhava and also gifts for Uddhava to bring back to Mathura. And so the tears are filling their eyes. Their voices are cracking, and they make a request of Uddhava. The request is coming from Nanda Maharaj, but all the cowherd men are saying like that, thinking like that. They ask for a benediction from Uddhava. May you give us the benediction that our actions will always be for Krishna's pleasure. Our minds will always be thinking of Krishna's lotus feet. Our words will always describe his glories. And then the next request they make of Uddhava is surprising. Wherever we are forced to wander by the will of the Lord and our karma, let us always be Krishna conscious. So they're presenting themselves as conditioned souls, wandering under the force of karma. Karma bir brahmyamananam, they say. Wherever we're forced to wander by karma, may somehow or other we remember Krishna, may somehow or other we be Krishna conscious. They're not wandering under the force of karma like we are, but that's Braj Leela. They don't feel that they are liberated souls. They feel that we're ordinary cowherd people who are 100% fixed on Krishna. And this is what makes Krishna's pastime sweeter. It's the sweetest drama because the so-called actors have forgotten their acting. They take the drama as, this is it. This is real. Krishna, may we always think of you as we're pushed around by our karma. But they're not pushed around by karma. A more technical point, especially for the older devotees here. I always like to include something for the older devotees. Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd people are presenting themselves as if they're servants of Krishna in dasya. May we always remember his lotus feet. May our words always describe his glories. May our actions always be for his pleasure. What's going on? Their natural rasa, in the face of impending separation, changes momentarily to dasya. This is explained by the acharyas, that the impending ocean of separation is so intense that even though they may be in Madhurya Ras like the gopis, parental Ras, Vatsalya prem like Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, even Balaram, this happens to him. At the end of the Brahma Vimohana Leela, when Balaram realizes Krishna's done something with these cows and cowherd boys, he refers to my master Krishna did something with his Yogamaya potency. Even I couldn't detect it. So he's dipping into Dasya Prem. So how is that happening? Sometimes Krishna's dearest associates, the gopis, headed by Srimati Radharani, referred to Krishna as our master, our Lord. But this only happens in acute moments of separation, and it doesn't last for long. But when the impending separation, the anticipation of separation becomes so intense, they can temporarily revert to Dasya Prem, which is included in all the rasas. So in this way, life in Vrindavan is going on. Everything is for Krishna's pleasure. So I like the way Srila Prabhupada presents this departure of Uddhava from Vrindavan to Mathura, his concluding words in the Krishna book. It was here in Los Angeles where Prabhupada gave instructions how to read Krishna book. He was in the garden. He said, Krishna book means read it and enjoy. So that's your legitimate sense gratification. Read it and enjoy. Otherwise, devotees were sometimes peppering Prabhupada with questions like, how could Ugrasena have 1 billion bodyguards and things like that? With their puny brains, they're trying to get into all these esoteric details which require understanding of the unlimitedness of the spiritual energy. Ugrasena have all these bodyguards, and if sometimes one person even dared to ask Prabhupada, if Ugrasena had all these 1 billion bodyguards, how many toilets did they have in Dwarka? So then Prabhupada gave that instruction. He dismissed all these kind of inquiries and said, Krishna book means read and enjoy. Especially wonderful before you take rest at night. Read Krishna book, and then you may dream of Krishna. This way, you're having real enjoyment. So the residents of Vrindavan, they don't, as you know, think that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They remember the words of Gargarishi at the Namakarana ceremony, the name-giving ceremony. Gargarishi said, this child will protect you from all kinds of danger. This child will be like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But generally the Brijbasis take it as this child will have Narayan enter within him and he'll do impossible things. They just can't think that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even when they see Krishna do something inconceivable. That's our boy Krishna. Gargarishi said, Narayan will enter into him, into our boy, and do amazing things. We are speaking about the cowherd boys when they saw Krishna swallow the forest fire. Now bear in mind, Krishna swallowed that forest fire in a way that Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda wouldn't see it, because they would have totally freaked out. Our boy is swallowing a forest fire. So Krishna did it in such a way they couldn't see. The cowherd boys, they concluded, Krishna, our friend Krishna must be a devata. He must be a demigod. And then what's the natural conclusion? We're demigods too, because we're just as good as Krishna. That is life in Vrindavan Dham. Hare Krishna. Any questions?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. My question is about, thank you very much for the wonderful class, and my question about the relationship between Guru and his disciples.
Is this a question based on the class or something else?
I can ask after the class.
Okay. We try to entertain questions about the class. That's all right with you. That's okay? Yes, you can ask after. Thank you for your understanding. No other questions? Yes. This is your guest, Dvija Pitambara. He's a brahmachari from Melbourne, Australia. I hope you have put him to work here. Yes, you've been active in service? Oh, he goes out and distributes books. Who do you go out with? All right. Yes.
You mentioned about Krishna book and how it's a summary of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. And similarly, we have the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which is a summary of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I wanted to ask, what's the difference between reading Krishna book and the 10th canto or teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Read them both. That's what I do. Enjoy. I read Chaitanya Charitamrita. That is a good point. I was discussing with Vaisheshika Prabhu how Teachings of Lord Chaitanya has become a neglected book because everyone thinks, well, we got Chaitanya Charitamrita. That supersedes Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. It makes Teachings of Lord Chaitanya not so necessary. But if you ever read closely Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, you will be shocked amazed, how did Prabhupada get all that siksha from Ramananda Roy, Sanatana Goswami, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Rupa Goswami? How does he get it all in one book? It's amazing. It's ingenious, ingenuity out of this world. So I highly recommend, don't think teachings of Lord Chaitanya is not necessary anymore. So what was your question?
So what's the difference between reading teachings of Lord Chaitanya or Chaitanya Charitamrita or Krishna book and Canto?
They all produce, as Prabhupada said, they all produce feelings of separation from Krishna. That's the goal. Beyond knowing Krishna's power and glory. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the one who knows my power and glory engages in devotional service. Beyond that is when you just want to love Krishna. You don't want to know about his power and glory. Just like the residents of Vrindavan. They don't want to know about Krishna's power and glory. They just want to love Krishna. But that is the advanced stage of bhakti. But that is our goal. And that's ultimately what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. As a book distributor or preacher, what is your advice if we're maybe attached or attracted to Krishna's power and glory as the Parabrahman or the Paramatma, that we sometimes when we're chanting, we feel like, okay, maybe I shouldn't directly approach Krishna, maybe I should just meditate on one of his other aspects.
We're following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who gave the instruction that Arajo Bhagavan, we worship, we serve Krishna, we venerate Vrindavan, we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and we exalt the cowherd ladies of Vrindavan as the best devotees. That's the instruction of Lord Chaitanya. So we're following Krishna through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, there'll be no success in the age of Kali. You look at India today, there's so much confusion about who is Krishna. What is bhakti? Like Yadava Veer can tell you. His folks told him, yeah, it's nice you're going to the temple, but don't do too much bhakti. This chapter of third canto spoken by Lord Kapil Dev is especially meant for those kind of persons who think that fruitive activity, good karma, is the main thing, and bhakti is subordinate. So we follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's the only path to success in this darkness of the age of Kali. No need to speculate something else. This young lady has a question.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Lovely to see you. Thank you for your service in the class. My question.
You were late, though.
I was, but we were listening in the car.
Oh, you have an answer for everything.
Technology.
I know her from Gita Nagari, that's right.
But apologies for being late, for sure. Thank you for mentioning again about the arrival fallacy and things will be great then, things will be great then.
Does it happen to you?
Actually, no, because with remindings of things like you, so thank you. I guess to that point, thinking about oh, I'll be joyous later, and how can we ensure that we're not being the enjoyer or trying to be the controller by choosing joy in the moment? Does that make sense?
Yes. You reminded me of what I was going to say, because there's so much to say. At the end of the chapter in Krishna book, where Prabhupada is presenting Uddhava's departure from Vrindavan, going back to Mathura, and the prayer by the Brijbasis that wherever we're forced to wander by our karma, may we always be Krishna conscious. Prabhupada goes to the highest level of bhakti and says, A real devotee, a pure devotee, doesn't worry about the next destination, whether it's the heavenly planets, has no aspiration to go to heavenly planets, doesn't desire to go to Vaikuntha, doesn't desire to go to Gloka Vrindavan. Simply, the pure devotee wants service to Krishna. So it reminded me of, I forgot to mention that. Thank you. It's getting late. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.